Okay. Hi, Morgan. We're recording. Oh, don't look at my nails. My nails are gonna get done in like an hour. Or I'm gonna do my nails. I know I said like I have money.
Yeah, I'm about to cut mine off.
Why?
Start fresh.
Oh,
Because they're all uneven.
just get you some tips, girl. That's what I'm about to do.
That's a loud word.
It is. Okay. Morgan. Okay.
Ooh, that's bright. Ooh, that's bright.
Speaking of bright, let me change my lights. I meant to put it on a spooky color. Should I do pumpkin colored? Or should I do blood colored?
When did you even do this, dude?
Okay. So I'm gonna do my little intro as if this is my own thing because I'm not gonna make 2 recordings. I don't feel like it. So this is my, coming back in. This is me coming back from my hiatus of my podcast. That was another podcast, but I started a new podcast. But this bitch didn't want to finish the podcast, so I started a new podcast. But now this bitch want to do a podcast again, so we're back doing a podcast. But it's still my podcast. She just on that bitch. The bitch is on that
Exactly.
bitch. Okay, so this is called Who Asked You? And today we're talking about motherfucking true crime. Because am I a professional true crime commentator? No, but we doing that shit anyway. I should stop
Right.
cussing. I don't care.
It doesn't matter.
So this is my best friend, Morgan. And we're gonna talk about true crime because it's almost Halloween, and I mean even before Halloween we were into this. So
Right. And here's the thing, like we like true crime, but we realize it's a lot of white people doing true crime, which is not bad. I like a couple of like the podcasts I watch and like some of these TV shows, but when they, relate it back to life and stuff, I'm like, that's not really relatable.
it just doesn't have any flavor.
Like, have you listened to Crime Junkie?
I've listened to 3 true crime Well, no, I listened to a handful of true crime podcasts. I can't distinguish one from the other. I just know that the one that you recommended to me, their voices were horrible. So I was like,
I like the way they
I
do
don't
it
want
and they
this.
do their research and all that stuff, but sometimes I'm like, all right, this is a bit much. But I like the show.
Wait,
I listened to all the episodes.
which one has the 2 ladies? That one was okay.
There's a lot of them with two ladies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Crime Junkie is one of them. But no, there's a one that I think we were talking about, and I think the people's voices annoyed me.
It was a guy and a girl,
I
and it sounded
oh,
very cheesy, like an infomercial.
you told me about that one, and I agreed. And then there's another one that's actually really popular in podcasts called like My Favorite Murder or my something like that, and it's two white girls, and it's like really popular. Like they're always in the top 10 of most listened to podcasts, but I couldn't do it. I
So here
couldn't
we
do it.
are doing, shout out to representation. We're doing our own thing.
Right. And not to say we're doing the same thing because I ain't doing all that work. I ain't got that time. And most of them at this point, that's their real job.
No,
So we're gonna do
no,
stuff that's relatable for us.
exactly. We literally were like, let's do this and this and that. And then we were like, no, let's not do all that at all. So we just watched something and we're going to talk about it. I took a few notes on things that I wanted to bring up, but I didn't take super detailed notes on all the people that were introduced or like
If you want that,
very
you can watch
detailed.
the doc.
Exactly. So
This is just our interpretation and the stuff that stood out to us.
exactly.
Because this shit is some
So,
bullshit.
okay. So let me open our little spreadsheet. Hold on, where did it go? So we watched this docu-series
Yeah.
called The Jinx, and it's on HBO if you got money, or if your mom lets you log into her streaming websites. And do you remember when it came out, or do you know when it came out?
I want to say it came out in maybe like 2008.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it actually is a little older, but it's still good. I'm
Okay.
looking it up now.
So it's a 6-part docu-series on HBO. It's streaming on HBO Max if you don't have the actual channel. Because who else do you still
It's
have
on.
cable?
I have cable, but it's on regular HBO too. So if you don't have Max, because I have a Roku TV, and HBO Max doesn't work on Roku.
I know that's so. I have a smart TV too, and I have to yeah,
It's
they don't
just
have
too
an
much.
app for it.
Right. But it was actually 2015, and I think the guy who did it, his name is Andrew Jarecki.
Okay, so shout out to that guy. So it's a 6-part docu-series, like we said, on HBO, and it's called The Jinx once again. And I put that it takes place in Texas, but if you watch it,
It's all over the
there's
place.
a couple of locations because this nigga a serial killer. I love serial. I mean, okay, this sounds weird, but I'm fascinated by serial killers.
The story in the
Yeah,
background.
like I'm not.
You're not one of those girls that's like writing letters to the people in
No,
jail.
I was just about to say that. I'm not trying to be pen pals with the serial killer, but I'm very interested in how their minds work. And I studied journalism and communication in college. And at one point, I declared a minor as criminology and sociology, or criminology is a subset of sociology. But I wanted to be a criminal journalist where I'm like commentating on the story, like on Snapped and all those like kind of shows, whatever. But it was too much work, child. So here I am talking about it anyway. So kind of same thing.
Something to think of later. Another option.
Yeah.
Anthony Soule. I actually read a book about him for my criminology class when I was in undergrad, and getting deeper into it because we were in high school when that was all happening.
Yeah, and if you don't know who that guy is, I mean, Morgan and I grew up in Cleveland, and he was a Cleveland serial killer. And he was black. You see this shit, and you're like, "You say black? He was one of us." So yeah, that was gross. The one thing I remember about that story, and I just remember people talking about the smell,
and they thought it was the meat factory down the street.
Yeah, so sick. But yeah, that'll be a person that we could talk about potentially because this year is trash. I mean, that's just understating it. But especially in terms of like the Black Lives Matter movement and like police brutality and stuff like that, there's kind of just a lot. So even though we're talking about a morbid subject, we didn't want to talk about like Black people. So
yeah, or anything with like kids. That's more depressing than it needs to be.
Like I want to say I don't want to talk about anything heavy, but we're talking about murder, so it's heavy. But or maybe it won't all be murder.
Relatable.
Yeah, it's less familial right now, and I just need that little bit of distance. So anyway, back to the Jinx. I put that it takes place in Texas. That's where it started off. But then, like I said, this is about a serial killer, and allegedly, because we'll get to it, but it took place in different parts of the country. So the first episode, we open up with these country ass people. I don't remember their names necessarily, but there's this one guy that looked like Doug Dimmadome or like John Travolta and like dressed as Colonel Sanders.
Look like John Travolta. I died when I saw your note because I was like, "Yep, I know exactly who you're talking about."
He looks like him.
Right. And that was one of the cops in Galveston, Texas, where the whole story started off.
Yeah. So it starts off this dive team, this criminal dive team or whatever you want to call it, they discover a body. I wish I had sound effects. I could add sound effects. I'm gonna add sound effects. So they find a body, but it's not just anybody. You get it?
Haha.
It's just the torso. They cut the arms off, they cut the legs off, they cut the head off.
Except the head is missing.
Yeah, every other part of the body turned up except for the head. And they had to pick it up. This is so gross. The way they picked it up and like recovered the body was they stuck their hand down the throat
and then gripped the breastbone and was like, eh.
That's fucking sick.
They did this.
Yeah. So they find this body, and now they're, like any investigation, trying to identify the body and find out who done it.
Right.
So and take over whenever you're ready. But so they introduced this little old lady, or the idea of this little lady. They didn't show her or anything like that. But wait, how did they get in connection to the apartment complex?
So apparently the person who killed this person, because it's obviously a murder if the body's cut up. That's how my mind works. And we'll come back to that later.
People don't just cut
Uh,
themselves off and then cut themselves up and die. It's impossible.
right. And so whoever did that, at least the cutting up of the body wasn't smart because they put the body parts in separate trash bags. They floated, that's how the body parts were found. But there was actual trash in the bags as well. So there was a newspaper with an address on it. So the police were like, let's go to this address.
And the one interesting thing about this is what interests me about serial killers is their MO or their method of operation and like how they think and their like style of carrying out the crime. There are several things about this person that leads you to believe he wanted to be caught.
Exactly.
Like he was arrogant as hell. But anyway, continue.
And so they go to this house and they find that it's like a house, but it's a multiple units. And so they basically figure out the person that's dead lives in one unit. They're like, oh yeah. They talk to the owner of the property. And it's like, yeah, it's a little old lady that live in the other unit. They're doing their
Oh,
investigation. They
I
haven't
remember
found
they.
the lady.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I remember they were able to ID the body with the fingerprint on one of the hands they found, and then they
Correct.
were able to find the ID, and then they found address, and then that's how they got.
Well, they had the address before they even
Oh,
did
really?
all of that
Oh, right, because of the newspaper.
because of the newspaper, but that helped confirm, like, yes, this is that person, even though they thought it helped with the confirmation.
Yeah.
And so through all of that, I'm trying to think how another thing that was in the but okay, so they left it alone. They took it for face value. All right, is this dude and it's a lady over there. Cool, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing that was in that trash, and well, let's back up. They know the murder took place in this house because when they walked up to the house, there was a trail of blood leading down the stairs.
Right. Like they.
Like,
Okay. Yeah, they didn't even try, to be honest.
I don't think I'll ever murder anybody, but there's certain things I would think to clean up if I
How
was
do
trying
you
to.
go about dismembering someone, but you don't think to clean up after? Like you're like, I don't want anybody to find out. Well, that's not why the person did it, but they're like, let me chop this bitch up and then be like, why would just leave his blood smeared? Like, what the hell?
I don't know what that's from.
That's what I'm saying. It's like he wanted to be caught and they bring that up a couple times.
Right. No, I definitely felt the same way. And so one of the other things that they found, I can't remember it now if it was from the bags or in the house, but it was a receipt
Mm-hmm.
from like an eyeglass place. And the name on it was Robert Durst. And they had no connection with that name. They didn't know who it was. That name didn't have a connection with the house, but they're like, hey, it's with all this other evidence. Let's go to this eye place and see if they know who this person is. And
Mm-hmm.
so at the eyeglass store, they're like, oh, yeah, he's supposed to pick up some glasses on Friday. They like, bet. Here's my card. If he comes picking up the glasses, let me know. Sorry,
Right.
the FedEx man pulled up outside. I'm like, am I getting a package? I like packages.
So I don't know if I don't know if we glazed over this or if it comes up later, but did us back to like them identifying the people in the apartment. There's two people. One they assumed to be the victim, who
Right.
was Morris Black, who was
Correct.
dismembered and everything, and they were able to confirm his ID and everything like that, and identify him. And then the second was Dorothy Siner,
Oh,
who
yeah,
they
that was.
described as a little old lady, like middle aged. Um, she was deaf mute, and like nobody really talked to her, I guess.
Yeah, it was
And
just
they
an
said
old
that
lady.
they said she traveled a lot, but she also
Mhm.
paid her rent up,
And
like
yeah, upfront cash.
yeah, at like a year, yeah, like a year in advance.
Which who does that? But all right.
Like
Um,
she rich.
but living in a crappy place and travels all the time. Like, oh, okay, your business, whatever.
Your
And
money, girl.
so they're going about their regular investigation until this cop, the one that looks like John Travolta,
Dim
um,
dome. Oh, another dim dome.
and then hey, he gets a page because this is like I don't know if he ever mentioned this. This is in like 1999, 2000, maybe 2001 when this is happening.
Yeah, early 2000s for
It's in
sure.
that range between 99 and 2001. So he got a
not
page.
in the 2000s. Sorry.
So he got a page from the iPlace and it said 911 and he recognized it was the iPlace. So he pulls up and realizes this guy that he doesn't know who it is, Robert Durst, is pulling out. And so he follows him and has a traffic cop or whatever stop him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, they're doing some basic question or whatever. They have other people come around. In this time, they're doing their other investigation. So they know what tools were used. They found a receipt in the bag. And so they went to that store and was like, somebody bought plastic sheeting, a saw, basically a murder kit. So they know all of this other stuff already. They pull up, they're looking in, one cop looking his back, they're like, hey, that
This
saw that was on
motherfucker
that
saw
receipt is in the trunk.
in plain
They were like,
sight.
oh shit. They like, we got this, basically.
It wasn't even like a full like search either. They just were like, hey, that's a saw back there.
Right. Once
This is
again,
crazy.
if I murder somebody, I'm not driving around with the murder weapon.
Unless you're
Or
a
the excuse
sociopath.
me, the method of dismembering the body.
Yeah. Oh, right. You have to, yeah.
Excuse me, we
differentiate.
don't know how he was murdered yet.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, basically, they got this guy, Robert Durst, cool. They think it's a slam dunk. We know who killed this dude. We got the evidence. We're going to put him in jail, whatever.
Person of interest, yes.
All of a sudden, they're like, the guy, he's very small. They're like, this guy did this? All right, whatever. But once again, evidence lines up to him, so they put him in jail. Then he is like, oh, so what am I doing? And they tell him his bail, which I believe was $250,000.
Which he had.
Which, to their surprise, because
well, not like, on him, but
right, and that's exactly what he said. They were like, "Do you have $250,000?" He's like, "Not on me." Like, not in no joking fashion. Like, a
disgustingly rich.
Like, yeah, I got it. But... and they're like, whatever. Turns out he makes a call. They say, "Okay, money's gonna be there in the morning." All of a sudden, moods change. Who the fuck is this man?
Like, okay, rich nigga shit. I know a lot of. Sorry.
But yes, that gets us to the beginning of the story, like the real beginning, because then you have to figure out who is this man that can call in a $250,000 bail.
Yeah. So upon further investigation and more information is uncovered about this Rob Durst person, who's not to be confused with Fred Durst, aka Limp, lead singer of Limp Bizkit. Because that's how I was like,
looks more like he kind of looks. I don't know if you've ever watched.
He looks dead inside.
Looks like Gollum.
Yeah, he looks
Gollum
dead
from
inside.
Lord of the Rings.
Big old dark, like, and I like not even like the eye color. His eyes is like a big dark circle. Like you can hardly see his pupil differentiated from his iris. He looks like a demon.
I was like, on Zoom, I could share a picture of him.
So yes, not to be confused with Limp Bizkit lead singer, because I was like, this name sounds hella familiar. Anyway, he's like a real estate developer, family company, super like filthy, disgustingly rich.
Do you see it?
It says Morgan. Oh yeah. These pictures make him look too nice. Find a creepier
one. But these are the later pictures after he's been in jail.
What happened to this man's neck? This one right there with the red eyes.
This one?
The second one.
Ah.
This nigga looks terrifying.
Yeah, he's old as shit.
Oh yeah, by the way, he was born in the 40s. So by the time all this concludes and they're like doing the interviews and stuff like that, he's in his 70s by that point. Because they revisit the case 10 years later. We'll explain why. So yeah, they find out more about him. They uncover that he has a brother named Douglas Durst, who they don't get along very well because of like family business drama, where was Rob supposed to be the owner or like take over a business? Or
just to give like a more big, the Dursts are like the Trumps. They're equitable to the not the orange man in that house, but to the legacy.
Yeah,
they are a real estate family from New York, and like if you say 5 names, their name is one of the big real estate names. And so their father was Seymour Durst, and so big real estate business, blah blah blah. Robert, murderer, alleged murderer, um,
He
he is
did
the
that shit.
eldest son. So, in all them rich white people, when you own stuff goes to the eldest son when the elder decides to retire or dies. I actually looked up some stuff outside of the show. Turns out that was the plan. He worked for them, but in the 90s, he started getting a little funny, not doing work. They thought he was stealing money. He
Oh,
peed in
okay.
his brother's trash can. Um, Bunch of little random shit. So when the father passed it down, he skipped Rob Durst and gave it everything to his brother. He left his brother to run the company. So they didn't like each other from childhood, but they didn't like each other even more after
Because
that.
of the yeah. And I know I don't remember if this was connected to that or I remember them saying that he was in jail and declared incompetent at some point by his brother.
They were trying. That was what they were afraid of. I don't know that it actually ever got done, but that's why his current wife didn't want any connection with some other stuff going on, because they thought he would be declared incompetent and then his current wife wouldn't be able to get his money and his
Yeah.
trust if he were to die.
She wasn't in there much after that.
No, because
That
she
was
didn't
weird.
have any importance.
She was irrelevant. So yeah. So at some point Douglas got a bodyguard against his brother and he tried to hire a lawyer. Okay, Douglas tried to hire a lawyer for Robert, I think, in talking about, his
Mhm.
declaration of his like mental health and everything. And so the sister-in-law, Robert, their second
Second wife.
wife, was trying to like interfere. Like, we need to get a different lawyer because this lawyer's gonna fuck our shit up. Well, fuck my shit up. I wanted your money.
When you die,
Yeah, which
basically.
this nigga gonna live forever. He's still alive, right?
After all this stuff, yes. Um,
Mm.
and so yeah, basically they still think this is the dude that killed him. This is where the evidence lies. But he's out on bail. Um, and so that's kind of how the story in the documentary starts off. But that's not where his story starts. So some of the news media that comes out is like, hey, this dude is accused of murder again. And it's like, again?
Also, they made a movie about him, which I've never
I've heard of
known.
that movie, but I've never seen it because it's not my style of movie. It's like a Lifetime movie that came out in theaters.
Oh. Starring
I'm not,
Kirsten Dunst, who's not to be confused with Robert Durst.
which I love Kirsten Dunst, but I'm just talking about like the theme of the type of movie. It's like a Lifetime movie, like, oh, it's a man and a woman. There's issues. Someone ends up dead.
Who done it? On
But
paper, it seems like a very like, no, unfortunately, not uncommon.
a Lifetime movie.
Yeah,
You know how it's gonna end. Like, that's just what it
he
seems
did
like.
that shit.
And
So
so
yeah,
that's kind of how this whole thing started. So I guess try to not make it confusing. We said Andrew Jarecki is the one that made this show, The Jinx. He was actually the producer or director of that movie. I think it was called All Good Things. Came out in theaters. They had the red carpet. Like I said, had big names like Kirsten
Dunst.
Dunst. That's what it was.
Yeah,
I'm old.
I only remember her because I stand her low key after Bring It On. I was obsessed with that
but
movie, which also came
she's
out around this
actually
time.
good. Right, which is two very random roles. But
Yeah.
All Good Things was actually a story based on Robert Durst and his situation with his first wife. Because she kind of disappeared, and to this day nobody knows where she is.
Completely
And
ignoring the
everybody,
brutal murder. I just think
right,
that's so funny. I mean, not funny, but it's just like he's just done so much wild shit that wasn't even the wild part
that
or the
it wasn't even the
wildest part.
wildest. For real, the murder that like most easily you could prove is not the craziest shit he's done.
Nope.
Um, and so yeah, so Andrew Jarecki
And
knows
not
who
why he got in
Robert Durst
trouble either.
is. Right. Andrew Jarecki, the director, producer, whatever, he knows who this guy is. So he makes this movie, it comes out, he's cool, doing his own thing. Robert Durst actually reached out to him and say, hey, I kind of want to tell my own story. And so they come up with this documentary, and that's how the Jinx came to be.
Again, a
And so,
sociopath.
yep, and that's how they delve into his story. He does interviews with this guy, which they section throughout the episodes, and it's just it's kind of gross the way he talks about things, because he's at this point he's gotten away with all of it, so he can.
It's just very arrogant, and I kind of feel bad for him, like in a little old man sense, or not bad for him, but kind of like,
He's an old man, but then I'm like, but that
yeah,
nigga probably killed 3 people. Oh, 3, yeah, we
disgusting.
didn't get to that third one.
Oh, there's more, honey.
But yeah, so they talk about this is after Galveston, Texas, and killing his neighbor. We can go in. Do you want to go into the output of that now, or you want to go into like
Wait,
the way the story happened?
we didn't even get into the identity, like the disguise.
Oh, we didn't. So let's just finish off this whole story of Galveston, and then we'll get to everything.
Well, it
Well,
comes back up, but the details are not as
right.
important.
So once again, how does he fit in? He was the guy's neighbor. He was the little old lady. He moved to Galveston, bought a wig, bought some women's clothes and a purse, and just lived his life.
And what's funny is
Why?
they were like, why didn't you just, they asked him, I don't know if this is about this or a later discuss, because they ask him about it later. Once he gets apprehended, he was like completely, that's for his wife's thing, right?
No.
When was the thing where he got caught because he was stealing a sandwich or something like that?
That was for this murder because he was out on bail.
Oh, he missed his arraignment. He missed his arraignment.
Correct.
Yeah. And they found him. He was like, he just like stole a sandwich from a store. Like I said, he was very lazy trying to get caught, and he had completely shaven off all his hair. And they're like, why did you do that? They're like, well, I couldn't like grow a new mustache. Like, so I had to look. I thought that then, so he was like, I thought that's what you were supposed to do. Like, but then he was also like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I've never been arrested for murder. It was this nigga loco, okay?
He's a little crazy. I mean, and so I guess another backstory, like there's stuff that's happened in his life as far as not a good relationship with his dad and his brother. His mother either jumped or fell off of their roof. I don't know how you can say fall off of a roof, because why are you on your roof in the middle of the night?
I don't know if this is if it was the way that he told the story, or if it was just sus from the beginning, because he was saying like, oh it was like bedtime. My dad brought me to the window where my wife was. The dad brought him to the window where the wife was on the roof outside.
Like say
and
hi,
he said, yes, say hi to your mother. And he's like, hi.
Did your dad tell your mama to get up on the roof and jump or something? Like, why did he know she was on the roof?
That was weird. Like, was this a setup, or did he just not think she was gonna do that? But also, again, why was this bitch on the roof?
What? Either way, she ended up not on the roof and dying.
And he saw the whole thing.
Right. And he saw it because he was right there.
She did it in front of the, yeah, that was fucked up.
Yeah, so he has trauma. But you see that something ain't right in his mental state. Take out the murder and all that. Something just ain't right, just the way he talks and everything.
He was like running away all the time and stuff as a kid too. Like you said, not getting along with his brother.
He doesn't get along with his father. Never wanted to go into the family business, but his dad wanted him to.
He was like the black sheep. Yeah.
But yeah, so this story, it just goes, there's so many twists and turns. So yes, he's this old lady and pretending to be an old lady in Galveston. And this actually, so this can take us back to his original issue and story. The reason he is in Galveston dressing as an old lady is because he wanted to get past his old life, because everybody thought that he murdered his wife and got away with it in New York City. And since,
or caused her disappearance.
Right. And since he's at least the heir for multi-millions of dollars, that's news. So he's on newspapers. The conservative lady, because she be on Fox News all the time, Janine Piero, whatever. She used to be a New York City DA, and she was coming after him for what the disappearance, presumed murder of his first wife. But what we know her from is, I know her face from like Fox News. So that's kind of where she went.
We don't fuck with her.
No, but she was trying to catch him for murder. But they also thought, hey, she trying to climb, like she trying to get her name out there, which I ain't mad at nobody trying to do, do better in business. But anyway, so yes, he married in, I guess, the 70s or 80s. He married a woman who was normal. Turns out their marriage wasn't as great as they like to pretend.
Was he crazy?
Yeah, one day she disappeared. No sign, no evidence, nobody knows anything to this day. And it's been over 30 years.
And she was with people beforehand. They kind of like touched on him being like controlling and stuff like that. And
He admitted that there was physical abuse.
Yeah, and yeah, they're like, when's the last time you hit her or something like that? Oh, that wasn't the first time. Definitely hit her, like smacked her up. Like, this nigga crazy. So she was
like,
with her
homegirl. But you.
So yeah, like you didn't have to say it. This nigga, like I said, he wants to be caught, or he's like very arrogant in the way that he doesn't think he's going to get in trouble. So he just says all this swat shit. But she was with her homegirl out of town, and she like called and like, you know, touch base with her nigga, like, hey boo, I'm da-da-da-da-da. And I guess she was supposed to meet up with him the next day, and she was saying to her friend like she didn't want to go or something like that, and her friend was like, me, like fuck that nigga, like don't go then if you don't want to. And she's like, girl, he would kill me. Famous last words. So yeah,
apparently she also told her friend though, like, if something happens to me, Bobby did it. But yeah, so he wants her to come home from being over to friend's house. She drives home. According to him, they're arguing, blah, 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 bloop, bloop, bloop. She wants to go to their New York City apartment because she's also in medical school and she wants to study and has classes or whatever the next day. He's like, you ain't driving there. Y'all got multiple places, but y'all only got one car. Why? But either way, he's like, you're not driving there. So eventually, I guess she gives in, and he says that, oh, I dropped her off at the train station and let that bitch take the train in the middle of the night to the apartment.
Not sus at all. Very normal situation.
If my man, husband, whatever, let me take the train in the middle of the night when we got a car and he ain't going nowhere.
He would have left me the car and he would have been on the motherfucking train. Or he would have just driven me because he has a car. What?
That's why I'm like, it don't make no sense. Like most of the stuff that this man says, it doesn't make sense. But you know, that's his story. His story is the only one that exists because to this day, once again, nobody knows where she is.
Yeah. By the way, she has some good ass friends though, because her friends are like very adamant about.
I want you to do this shit. If anything happens to me, Kourtney, I need you to be on their level.
You already know my investigation history, bitch. I didn't call you in a couple of different. I done intercepted a few different interactions. Anyway.
But yeah, like her friends is real ones. They like, oh, hey girl, we about to go over to the house and pick up some trash. Okay, cool. Pulled up to their house, put some trash in the trunk, searching the trash, and that's how they find out like a week or so later, he's throwing out her stuff. Why are you throwing out her stuff if you don't know unless you know she's not coming back?
Are you not concerned
that your wife is gone? It's only been a week.
Very sus. If I do this man in real life, I would just, this is why I'm so interested. I'd just be like, what did you do? What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
Right. But also, and I think a part of it was a sign of the times, like, okay, she's disappeared. So of course there's an investigation. Her family's worried. So they're pushing the police, but the police didn't do shit. The police, and it might be a sign of the times. Part of it was like, maybe she just left you. She don't want to be with you. But like, they literally didn't do anything. They didn't interview his family, the multimillionaires, which if somebody disappears that's connected to multimillionaires, I'm going to connect it to the multimillionaires. But they didn't interview them.
They really did not give one damn in multiple situations this man was involved in. It's wild.
Right.
Well, it's not wild because it still flies, honestly.
If you're rich and white, yeah. They never searched his home, her home that she disappeared. Never searched it. Mm-mm. And they caught him in lies and they still didn't go any further. So like one of the things he told the police is like, oh yeah, that night after I dropped her off at the bus station, I went to my neighbor's house. We had a glass of wine and yeah, blah, blah, blah. They interviewed the neighbor. He like, that shit ain't never happened.
He also had they also pointed out before she went missing that he had a strained relationship with her mother too. Right. So basically everybody on her end, on her side, did not trust this man. They're like, something is really off with this man.
They just didn't really like him.
No.
But he also admitted he's not a likable person. He said that, like,
when he got with her. He said, I don't like
Right,
anybody. So like,
right. He
cool.
was like, it was great that I found her because I don't like people. She likes people.
Mood.
She's sociable.
Also
I'm
mood.
not.
I mean,
And
I'm sociable, but I don't like people also. Anyway.
but no, he was at an extreme level where it's like he don't want to have no conversation with you. And like, or like, okay, there might be a person he wants to, but if he doesn't, he's not going to attempt to make the situation more comfortable.
No.
Weird. But yeah. Oh, this is a long story.
Then so they were just kind of like confused, question mark, question. Well, not very much because they didn't investigate it that far. But the people that cared about her had like question marks over their head. And then we get to the daughter of the gangster.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, either way, that's the whole reason why eventually he went down to Galveston, because they had brought the case back up. They had started doing investigations again. And he was like, I'm over this shit. I'm over being the center of attention. I'm going to hide out as an old lady in Texas.
And kill someone. Or cut them up at least.
He killed that nigga.
He did that shit, I'm telling you. But that's not what they thought. Anyway. So yeah, then they introduced this Susan Berman woman who is a companion of his. Friends. Yeah, so it's a friend of his. She didn't find out till later in life that her dad was a big time gangster. That's why I call it
random, caveat in the story. And so, yeah. She came like, okay, they're friends, whatever, but she became more in the story because once his wife went missing, she kind of took the role of, I'm going to take the lead in front of the media, be your publicist. I'm going to keep people away from you. I'm going to tell the stories that need to be told to get you in this place.
She was an author. What did she do? She was an author.
Screenwriter, stuff like that.
So pretty much she wasn't mind her business and it was to her own detriment. So
because she was so close to him, though, people always believed like, if you need to find something out, you need to talk to her. But I don't think they ever talked to her like when it was close to the murder. It wasn't until they reopened the case. Want to say, I don't even know when did they reopen.
It's like 10 years later, right? Or no?
Yeah, I'm about to look.
Is that when they started filming the documentary? When they said 10 years later?
The case was reopened in 1999.
Of the wife's disappearance.
Right, and then in 2000, that's when he moved to Texas, and the lady, and acted like the old lady. And then it was also later in 2000. It was Christmas Eve of 2000 when Susan Berman's found dead in her house.
Huh. Who would have thunk?
Now, like we said, people kept saying they had just reopened the case, and people kept saying, you need to talk to her. That's his friend. That was his publicist, whatever. And so the police had reached out to her, and she had apparently told Robert. And all of a sudden, she's dead. Nobody broke into her home. She was shot in the back of the head, so she must have been comfortable with the person because she was walking with her back to them. But the police tried to focus on mob ties because she has mob or mafia connections.
Mind you, she didn't even know, like I said, she didn't even know until later in her adult life. Didn't they say until she was like 30 or something? She didn't even know?
I don't know if it was 30, but it was like, she was at least 21.
Okay. Well, as an adult.
Right. But yeah, so now people still suspicious, like, yo, that's another person.
Like, what the hell?
Because I'm trying to figure out what was the chronological order of the three. Like, it was his first wife, but did the other guy die first, or did Susan?
Was he?
Okay, so
he has to have been in New York
Susan
still.
Died first.
Yeah, he had to have been in New York still. So it's very even more sus that you moved after you killed 2 people, and then go and kill another one. I'm pretty sure it was the wife. I can't remember her name. I'm sorry, but Mrs. Durst,
Kristen, or Kath. It was a K name. I'm about
Kathy.
Kathy.
I think it was Kathy.
Yes, Kathy.
Kathy, and then it was Susan, his friend, and then he ends up going to Texas, and then Mr. Black, who was not black, by the way.
No.
Anyway.
But yeah, so basically all these people, like, how you connected to 3 people's deaths? All right.
And they didn't even care, though. They didn't even care.
And so the way that he wasn't, but anyway, he wasn't necessarily, like, his name was on the list because he's one of the people that could have easily gotten in her house, but he wasn't a main suspect for her death. So that kind of time just passes, blah, blah, blah. In the meantime, he has to go to trial for this Morris Black killing. And so he's back in Galveston. Like Kourtney said, this is after he got caught from missing his arraignment, and he stole a sandwich, and that's how he got caught. But either way, now we're at his
He was
trial.
like, I don't know what came over me. Like, not the murders, the sandwich is what you're like pensing about. What?
But yeah, this is an amazing example for how money can get you anything you want, because he got him 2 of the best lawyers in Texas.
Oh yeah, they were trying to decide between the 2. He said, "Por qué no los dos?"
And so yes, he has 2 great lawyers, and prosecution, police, they're like, police from New York, police from LA, police from Texas, like, yo, this the slam dunk one. This the one we got to get him on. Slam dunk. We got all the evidence. He cut up the body. We know this. The weapon was in this car. So go to trial. His defense introduces the defense that yeah, he cut up the body because he was afraid, but he didn't kill him.
Couldn't have.
And here's where the prosecution made a mistake. They only charged him with murder. You know, sometimes when you see crimes, they'll charge them with, like, just in case y'all don't want to do murder, we'll do manslaughter too.
Yeah.
Or we'll do murder too. Or, you know, a couple of charges just as a jury.
Yeah, just to cover all the bases.
Exactly. Or, like, at least they could have charged him with dismembering a body, getting rid of evidence. No.
Which is what they tried to focus on. Because, like, he could have been dead. I mean, yeah, I cut him up, but did I kill him? No. Like, why would you just be cutting up somebody? Really, exactly. Somebody.
Exactly. But yes, so anyway, they just charged him with murder. And so the defense is like, how can you prove he murdered him? And their thing was like, it was self-defense. The dude was in his apartment. He went for a gun, so he went for a gun. There was a shot that went off. Dude's dead. And the guy that died, he was shot in the head. But guess what? The head is missing. So you can't use that evidence to say, nah,
no ballistic evidence, no nothing.
Self-defense. Right. So they couldn't prove that it wasn't self-defense. All they could prove is that he cut him up and got rid of the body pieces. But he wasn't charged for that. He was charged for murder. And
body pieces.
Right. Ew. So this jury was like, well, you know, we can't really say that he murdered him and it wasn't self-defense.
Yeah, in that accent. In that accent, yeah.
And so it wasn't a hung jury. No. They found him not guilty.
Unanimously.
There's some white people shit. Let me be found with an arm. I'm gonna be convicted of whoever it is. They don't even gotta know who did.
You could just have a saw and just be next door to this nigga, and you would have been in some trouble.
He literally was caught, and he told them how he dismembered the body and all this, and how he got rid of the body, all this stuff. And guess what? Nope. So he's free. And they showed the clip of him at the end of when they say that he was found not guilty. And he looking at his lawyers like, they said,
for real?
Not guilty?
For real? Okay, so that's the legal detailed stuff. Let's talk about the interviews with this man, because he is a fucking weirdo. Like, yes, okay, he's a criminal, and you know, and they kept saying like, oh, was this Doug Dimmadome who said, sorry, John Travolta, Colonel Sanders, whoever. He did not look like a normal person. He looked like he was in a character, in a costume.
He did.
Anyway, he was saying like, oh, he's not an evil, malicious person, but if you left it to him, he would, or if you put him against the wall, he would kill you. And I was like, I don't think people say that about most people. That's just weird.
He was saying like, it wasn't like he got enjoyment or fulfillment out of killing people. It wasn't like he was that type of serial killer that's smiling while he killing you or anything like that.
But that's the thing. Some of them are walking, everyday, normal-looking people, but that's why I keep saying sociopathic, because they walk and talk like normal people, but they are.
No, but I get what you're saying, but I think, and I kind of agree with him. It wasn't like, oh, I'm just gonna find anybody to kill. He was like, oh, these are people that got in my way of like me doing what I want to do, so they gotta go. So the idea for those would have been his wife got in the way. Oh, something we forgot to mention. His wife was trying to divorce him and he didn't like the agreement that she had
Or
came
no,
to.
she was pregnant. Didn't she
No,
get
that was
pregnant?
before. That was before she was pregnant, and he said get rid of the baby because we agreed no children. And she did get rid of the baby. But later on, she was like,
okay.
they had been fighting and stuff. She wanted a divorce, and she came up with a divorce decree with her lawyer or whatever, and he didn't like the terms. And it was literally, I want to say, the next day or the next week that she went missing. Yeah. So she was in his way. She's gone. The idea with Susan Berman, one theory that was put out there was that, hey, the police are coming to me, and Susan had some money issues, so they think she kind of tried to blackmail him a little, like, hey, give me a little money, I won't tell the police nothing. She's dead.
I think she would have sent away because she would have been able to corroborate what went on. I don't even think
she knows something. She knew something.
Yeah, she just knew too much. Like I said, she minded her business. So your friend likes to kill his wife. What's it to you?
The same idea was that Morris Black felt the same way. Like somehow Robert told the police that Morris ended up eventually knowing his identity, and they think somehow Morris was trying to use that against him, and that's why he killed him. Yikes. So it's not like, I'm just in the mood to kill today. It was all people that were like, might have something that they can make his life more miserable.
Yeah, just the way they described him though, it's just like, it just gave me this really eerie, uncomfortable feeling the whole time. Whether his mannerisms and his body language when they were interviewing him, it's like, oh my God. Like, first of all, he did that shit. Second of all, I'm scared. He's not a normal dude. Like,
not at all. And so, yeah, these interviews that for this documentary, The Jinx, they were just creepy. And like, once again, kind of like what you were saying, as far as you want to get caught. Like, yes, he was already tried for this, but he was bringing out new information that wasn't necessary.
For no reason.
Lawyers were there, and his lawyers recommended to him, don't do these interviews.
And a couple times he got caught. They made a point that, oh, your mic is still on. And he recognized it. He like, it's like you knew. Because it was like they're like, oh, we're gonna take a break. Okay, cool. Got up, walked away. Did they unhook you? Did they turn anything off? Like, obviously your mic is still on. And then he was like, it was either he was rehearsing what he was supposed to say, or he was like just running back in his head what he did say.
I think he was rehearsing what he was planning to say.
Okay.
In the interview.
But it was very
like, oh, why do you need to rehearse saying, no, I wouldn't kill those? Like, it's sad, but I didn't kill those. I wish I wrote down what he took note of what he said, but he was it was like kind of like loop, like finesse language. Like he was trying to, like, in a roundabout way, like it's like omitting the truth, kind of. It's like, did you kill? It's like, okay, for an example, this is what he said, but like, I didn't kill him, I dismembered him. And he would be like, I didn't kill him, I dismembered him. I don't kill him, I dismembered him. And I was like, what the fuck? Oh, I remember what it was about. It was about because, you know, if you're in court, you have to say, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And he was like, so I did the bookends. I told the truth and nothing but the truth. I just didn't tell the whole truth all the time. And that's not how that worked.
It's not.
And it was crazy because like he kept telling stuff like, I don't know if this came out in the trial, but he said it in the interview that, oh yeah, I went back out after I dumped the body pieces in the water. I went back out the next morning and I saw that they floated instead of sunk. And I was like, oh shit. So I found the bag with the head in it, and I took the head. And they never said where he took the head to. But he said this in the interview.
And they can't, like, I mean, the case is closed. But I was just
like, why? Because they can't, no, you can't be retried for that. That's double jeopardy. But I'm like, you just gonna tell them, oh yeah, I went back and I got the head. Because I'm like, they gonna find these pieces, but they can't find the head because that's where the evidence that they need is. Nigga, that is murder. There was no accident there. If you thinking that deep.
And then like the final scene, this is the one that Morgan were texting, because Morgan had recommended this to me. She'd already seen it. And I went back and watched it, and I was just kind of texting her throughout. She's like, let me know when you get to the bathroom scene. And that was like the final scene. And that's when I was just like, That's why I threw my hands up and I was like, I can't even.
I found something where it said the note, what he said, like, once again, he forgot that he had a hot mic.
And he, like I said, he literally was like, me and Morgan talking, I get up and walk away. Like, did I touch the computer? Did I press pause or end meeting? No. So I don't even know why you wouldn't even assume that it was still recording, but okay.
Right. And so what he said was, let's see.
Your eyebrows look immaculate, by the way.
Oh, thanks. They haven't been done in a while.
Well, I'm sitting back for a reason. Mine either. I tinted mine though.
At the end, it said, "What the hell did I do? Killed them all, of course." On his hot mic.
And I felt again, it was kind of like, oh, because he sounded like, oh fuck, like, what did I just do?
Killed them all. Huh? You killed all.
And then it was like he was having a conversation with himself. So it's like, are you hearing voices or?
It was just a lot, and this is what I say. This is
and
like
the
such a big
burping
story.
too.
Yeah, there's so much that we haven't gotten into.
Towards the end, like the questions they were asking were just, I guess, really getting to him. He was like getting tripped, like visibly tripped up and like conflicted.
And we can get into what that was, and I'll say, but like
that was scary, bro.
So, okay, he got acquitted for this, but through the documentary, they actually got some evidence which is damaging for him for Susan Berman's murder. Mm-hmm. So something that we didn't mention, before the day before Susan Berman's body was found, the local police, they actually got a letter in the mail, handwritten letter that had her address on it, and it was addressed to the police, and it said cadaver.
Right.
And it was a weird letter, like, okay, apparently it was the person who killed her that sent it, and Robert in multiple interviews said it had to be the person that killed her that sent it, but the letter was unique in that Beverly was spelled wrong. There was an E before the Y. Mm-hmm. It was block letters, so like capital letters for each
like one. Ransom, yeah,
right. And then there was just like some other little things that were just, they stood out. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the police had that, but once again, no connection to anybody. But through the interview, Susan Berman's pseudo son is not her blood son, but somebody who was like a son for her. Mm-hmm. He found, and he had got all her belongings when she died, and he had been going through, and he found a letter from Robert to Susan from years before. Beverly is spelled the same way. The handwriting is exactly the same. And it blatantly says, return address, Robert Durst. And so they're like, he said in the interview before that the person who wrote the letter had to have killed her. And this letter is exactly the same as that letter. And so like this was found through the documentary, and they gave that to the police after they approached him with it. And that's when he started getting real nervous.
If I was a lawyer, I would have fucking quit. Like, you're not gonna implicate me, bitch. Because do lawyers get in trouble for lying?
I think they can.
Like, I know they're.
I don't think they can unless they're blatantly breaking the law. So say they found evidence and they didn't, in a case or a trial, and they didn't share, or they destroyed it or something like that. In that way, yes. Just because they, like, say he said, yeah, I killed all of them. They can't get in trouble for knowing that.
And then he said, of course, killed them all. Like, he was just like she was like tripping over his words, and his eyes were shifting, and I was trying to like, that I can't remember where this information came from, but when they say like, oh, if you're lying, you look to one direction, I was like looking at all of that, like, this nigga, he's like belching uncontrollably. I was like, this nigga did it! Like, why is he doing this? He's like, hey, I got away with these murders. You made a movie about me? Well, I have something to say, and I'm going to get myself in trouble. And like, what was the reason?
It's just so many things. And like, we talked about a lot, but there was so much more in that doc. Like, it's worth it.
Y'all gotta watch it. I'm gonna say some stuff I watch and I'm just like, okay, like I consumed this information, fine. You do need to go and watch this. We pretty much told you everything, but there's so much that, I mean, like, and him being caught trespassing at he and his brother, his dynamic with his father, we didn't really go into there. You should just watch it. I think that you should watch it. If I had to rate this out of 5, I would give it like a 3.5. As far as like, I think that they did the story telling was done well. It was some points are kind of boring,
I
but
agree.
just for him as a person of interest in general, I
Yeah.
recommend you watching it. Like,
And I mentioned to Kourtney just because it's interesting because I didn't know about him or this story before the doc, but I'm like, this is during our lifetime. Literally,
yeah,
all of this is during, besides him killing his wife, all of it is during our lifetime. And we just, no idea.
they had Jon Stewart talking about it. They had a sketch on SNL. I don't
Hmm.
remember any of this. We were like, I mean, it's early 2000s,
Younger,
so we were
but still,
kids.
it's just
But I was just like, wow. And they were making jokes of it. That would be like,
because, yes, they were making jokes because it was like, hey, this person we think killed his wife just got acquitted, even though he
yeah.
dismembered the body.
It was like how pop culture has made OJ jokes, but while it was still happening, not like after he got off. It's like this nigga's actively still talking shit. Like,
And so,
what?
yeah, and some stuff that's interesting, like, so post doc, Jinx is
Mhm.
done. Literally the day after filming start, like the day after he had that hot mic incident, he was arrested on Susan Berman's murder.
Yeah.
Um, because they had other evidence with as well as that letter.
To support,
And
yeah.
so he is currently on trial for the murder of Susan Berman, but that got postponed due to COVID. It
Rona,
started in it started in March, and they were like, "No, nah, we're gonna push this off till June.
he
No,
gonna
nah, we're gonna
die.
put this off
Sorry.
till 2021."
He's gonna die.
Yeah, we'll
He
see.
looks
He does look
he looks
sickly, very
horrible.
sickly.
He looks very frail. His eyes are fucked up. This sounds really messed up, but you have to see it, honey. You'll know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, he looks very sick. Um, and so another thing that has happened last year, actually, in 2019, he admitted to writing that letter that was sent to the police. They still say, hey, he didn't kill her, but he admitted to the letter.
Also, the part of the letter that mentioned cadaver, they were trying to figure out what that meant. His, again, like Morgan said earlier, his wife, the first one that went missing, she was in medical school, so they were trying to like connect those things. So it was like he's laying breadcrumbs. So it's like any person with two eyes and a mind would know that he did all of this,
All of
especially
this.
since he said that he did.
I'm
And
sorry, that's
they
too
can
much
only bring him up on
coincidence.
they can only bring him up on the things that they have evidence for, even though the things they have evidence for, they're just flat out ignoring. But I digress.
It
So
just makes no sense. It's one of those things where I'm like, only because he is white, old, and rich. Because
white.
how?
Operative word being white.
The rich don't
Capital
the
H.
rich don't it makes it a lot easier, but still, like, how?
It's really something, I'll tell you.
And his family, even because his family is still rich real estate people in New York, they just like, oh, we just don't talk about it. We don't
Yeah.
really associate with him.
I
It
wouldn't
hasn't
either.
affected their business at all. It's just, it's
So that
weird.
is what you need to know about Fred Durst. Like we said, we highly
Fred
recommend you
Durst.
go back and. Oh, is he still alive?
Why wouldn't I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
think
People be
so.
dead. People be dying. Niggas die every
They
day.
do. Shit. People be dying left and right these days.
Robert Durst. You know what? There's something to be said about niggas named Robert, but anyway. Robert.
You know what's
Robert
horrible?
Durst.
As you said, that list of Roberts went through my head, and I'm like, yup,
Yep.
yup,
Yep.
yup.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Either they gave
Personal
you a
and
reason to
celebrity.
be either they gave you a reason to be suspicious or they did some shit. But anyway, Robert Durst. It's called The Jinx on HBO. It's a 6-part docuseries. It's like an hour each episode. I finished it in one sitting. I thought it was but I'm also like into weird shit. So maybe if you don't really care that much, it might take you a while to finish, but I watched it in one day. So yeah, me and Morgan really is into true crime. Like she listens to podcasts and stuff. I have some that I intend to listen on, but I just don't have it yet. But I'm really interested, especially with it being like Halloween coming up, like that spooky shit. I'm into it. So maybe we'll do this again. I don't know.
I
Depends
said
on
we
how
have to
Morgan's
find something
feeling.
creepier. Because his isn't
Oh,
creepy, it's
girl.
just crazy.
Yeah. So our
His is
goal is to
crazy.
find stuff that you can just like reference quickly, like a movie or a doc, more than like we do a research paper and you look this person up. That's not as fun to me.
That's a full ass job.
Yeah. And also, yeah, we're not trying to do all that either. So I'm thinking we'll find something else. There's tons of scary stuff on Hulu and Netflix and stuff, and I'm trying to think of stuff that is accessible too, because I
Right.
have ways of watching stuff that maybe I wouldn't say publicly, so that I'm not implicated. I'm not on no Robert Durst shit. But if it's streaming on like Hulu, Netflix, like the common streaming
Or
sites or
it's just like
whatever.
a very, I would say not well known, but like, oh, you could just easily find it
Yeah,
anywhere, even if it's just others, like through the library, or be on TV, whatever.
yeah, or like Amazon, or yeah. Anyway, we'll find something that's like accessible, and then we'll talk about it, and then yeah. But that one was a good one. That was a good start. I want to do this again for sure.
Okay.
And I'm back podcasting. Don't hold me to it though, bitch. I don't know. Some days I don't be feel like doing shit.
Life is weird. You're allowed to do whatever in
It's
2020.
a panoramic, like Gunna said. I know he meant pandemic, but he said panoramic, and that's
Who said
what
this?
Gunna say. Gunna, Gunna is
Yes, I didn't hear you when you said that.
whatever
That
Gunna
nigga
said.
says the
I'm gonna
panoramic.
lie. It's a
Says
pan.
the panoramic.
I'm gonna insert the video. He said it twice. He like really like was. He meant that shit. So it's a panoramic, nigga. Shit.
That hurts my heart. I'm sorry.
I enjoyed it thoroughly. So thank you, Morgan, for being a guest on my show. I'm just kidding. Being my co-host on our podcast together. That's not really our podcast. It's just my podcast because you don't want a podcast. But who gonna be her ass?
I can't commit right now.
Me either, bitch. I don't know when I'm gonna do this again. I don't even know. Anyway. So that's the end of our episode. We don't have like a social media or anything. You can just follow Morgan. Do you even? We're gonna use their Instagram.
Media.
I would say she sends memes and stuff, but she don't post shit.
Nope, because don't nobody need to know what's going on in my life.
Anyways, this is Morgan. Anyway, whatever. Morgan's thing is gonna be on the screen. Mine is at Kourtney Ari. You can go to my website, KourtneyAri.com. Ain't shit there, but you can go to it, bitch. I still pay for it, bitch. Maybe that's telling. But anyway, that's it.
Yep.
Period. Okay, and I guess if you really did watch this, you can comment. I'm gonna put this on YouTube, and if it doesn't sound weird on the audio, I will try and put it on like Anchor and like distribute it or whatever. Pepper Ann, my queen, lift her face up. I need to see that pup.
Say hi.
Feels right, yeah. Yes, but if you watch this and you enjoyed it and you have some wild shit we should watch, if you have recommendations,
ooh, I like recommendations.
do that shit. Otherwise, I'm always watching fucked up shit, so I'll find something to tell you. But that's it. I'm ending the recording now.